The newest Sonic game has an interesting collection of bosses, from bombastic to just bad. Today I'll be ranking every boss in Sonic Generations, Shadow Generations and Sonic Generations 3DS to make the ultimate list. Let's get into it. Number 18. The Time Eater HD. In games, the final boss is supposed to test your skills. All the things you've learned come together in one difficult final battle. Yeah, how about fumbling around like an idiot? Sonic Generations' final boss is an absolute joke. All you do is very slowly fly towards it and dodge some drills and objects. Hey, who put that in the video? Basically, this boss fight is really easy and pretty boring, which are not great qualities for a final boss. Number 17, 16 and 15. Silver, Metal Sonic and Shadow 3DS. I'm grouping these together because they're not even really boss fights. You're just racing a rival who will attack you occasionally. There are some slight differences, like Shadow uses the Chaos Spear and Silver throws crates at you and teleports. Like, how is that fair? And of course the levels are different. I think Silver is the worst because the stage design is the least interesting. Then Metal Sonic because its stage is a little cooler, and Shadow is the best also because of the level design. You can actually take some cool shortcuts in it. These races aren't bad at all, they're a cool inclusion, but they're pretty forgettable. Number 14. Biolizard 3DS. Yeah, the Biolizard was actually already in Sonic Generations before it was cool. On first inspection, this boss doesn't seem that bad. But then you realize how fucking easy it is. And that you have to hit it 8 times is pretty repetitive and lasts too long. This last attack where you maneuver between his balls is pretty cool though. Number 13. Big Arm. This boss has the opposite problem as it's too easy and short. You can hit this guy 4 times within one of his attacks. There also isn't much going on besides that. You just dodge him in this small arena and wait for an opportunity. It's not bad though, but far from the best. Number 12. Death Egg Robot. Okay, from this point on, I can say all the bosses are great. The Death Egg Robot is the first foe you face in Sonic Generations, unless you decide to do Metal Sonic first, but otherwise it's the first. In phase 1, you dodge his attacks and hit his ass a few times. But then you get to phase 2 where you have to make him punch bombs. Lol, what an idiot. It's pretty fun, but also pretty easy and quick if you know what you're doing. Number 11. Egg Emperor. Back to the 3DS, we've got a surprisingly difficult boss. In the first phase, you chase Eggman while he either shoots vertical or horizontal projectiles at you. This is far from easy though, as it isn't in a pattern. Eggman just does whatever he's in the mood for. You need a reaction speed of a god to be able to dodge these. This second phase is a little weaker, as you can easily dodge everything and you just have to wait for an opportunity. Overall, this one is pretty challenging, but in a fun way. Number 10. Shadow HD. Of course, seeing the two most popular characters fight is going to be great, but I do have a few complaints actually. You just raise Shadow to this orb, which grants you a special move. Catching the orb is pretty tense because Shadow is constantly on your tail, but ultimately it's pretty easy. I rarely ever fail to get it first. Then for the actual attack, you just quickstep into these comets and then drain Shadow's rings through this painful looking method. It's a fun boss, but it's just really easy. Number 9. Metal Sonic HD. I used to suck at this boss. I swear it would take me like 5 minutes to beat this as a kid. I must have suffered from severe skill issue, because nowadays I can do it in like 1 minute and it feels so satisfying to beat quickly. I like how almost any attack has an opportunity for you to get a hit in. When he does this drill move, the timing is especially difficult, so getting that one feels awesome. Pretty fun overall. Number 8. Time Eater 3DS. In the HD version, the Time Eater is the worst boss, but in the 3DS version, it's the absolute best. Your boost actually feels fast, and the attacks are way more difficult to dodge, but it feels fair. The controls are super snappy, so if you're unable to dodge everything, it's a complete skill issue on your part. You also have to switch to 2D sometimes, where you just have to dodge some more attacks until you get an opportunity. I like how you don't really get punished for getting hit, besides slowing you down. Really, the only enemy is time. Overall, the Time Eater in Sonic Generations 3DS is challenging, but in a fun way. Number 7. Silver HD. The classic Sonic chase formula. You chase the boss while dodging their attacks until you can get a hit in. Silver is a perfect example of this formula, with some delightful moves such as throwing objects at you, throwing a giant stacks of objects at you, throwing objects at you from above, and these blue blades. Ending it all off with a giant ball of objects that chases you. What an exceptional showing. Number 6. Egg Dragoon. His design is this fire? I don't blame Eggman for using it all the time. This thing is awesome. It has so many different weapons attached to it and fits Eggman so well. The drill reminds me of the first boss in Sonic 2 and the spikes represent how dangerous it is. Let's actually talk about the gameplay now, which is also great. You just chase Eggman while dodging a bunch of different attacks, whether you're rail grinding, wall jumping or skydiving. And he puts up a fight as well. You need to get like 7 hits in. Another great boss overall. Number 5. Biolizard, Shadow Generations. We're in the top 5 and only on our first Shadow Generations boss. This one also introduces a new element to consider, the spectacle. The bosses had been pretty tame so far, but from now on we've got full-on cutscenes. The Biolizard starts off as it would in Sonic Adventure 2, but after the first hit it grows arms all of a sudden. He'll now try to slap you with them, but eventually he'll get tired and you can attack his arms, or you can just stop him with chaos control and attack way earlier. But of course, with his newfound arms, he's got one more trick up his sleeve. Jumping on the wall and launching a giant ball. But using chaos control you can send it back and deliver the final blow. What a spectacle. Number 4. Metal Overlord. But it's about to become even more spectacular. The thing I like about this boss fight the most is that you're constantly busy. Instead of having to wait for an opportunity to attack, you're constantly knocking objects into him, doing small amounts of damage each time. But hitting jump ramps the right way lets you get in some big hits. There are a lot of ways to deal damage, and doing them all in one good run is really satisfying. After surfing for a while, you get to this 2D section where you hit some rockets into him, after which he decides to just throw an entire ship at you, but of course that doesn't work, and we get this miraculous final hit. During the whole fight, Metal Sonic and Shadow have some unfriendly banter, and he even reacts to what you do, like when you use Chaos Control, he'll tell you it's useless as he can do that as well. All these cool details just make this boss really enjoyable. Number 3. Perfect Chaos. What a standout boss amongst the rest. All the bosses, besides the Time Eater, are great in Sonic Generations, but Perfect Chaos is just perfect. You're fighting a giant lizard while running through a demolished city. It almost feels like an extra stage with all of its platforming while dodging some tentacles here and there. Just running through a level until you get to the enemy and avoiding some attacks in the meantime is a really fun way to experience a boss fight. It's just so much fun to speedrun and the environment is really cool, which is why I put it so high on the list. Number 2. Devil Doom. Everything the Time Eater did wrong, this boss did right. It requires you to use skills you've learned throughout the game, is challenging in a fun way, and it feels like a satisfying conclusion. In Sonic Generations you barely saw the Time Eater, only in a few cutscenes. Black Doom on the other hand was constantly tormenting you throughout almost every cutscene, and even in the stages. When the fight starts he takes on a completely different form that would intimidate even the fiercest of Sigmas. In the first phase you surf along this road and it's basically like the Metal Overlord boss. After that there's the Doom Morph section, where you jump from platform to platform. This part is pretty hard to get the hang of, but it's fun to launch yourself over a good chunk of the stage. When you finally deal all those hits, the second phase starts, where you fight Neo Devil Doom. Of course Shadow can't defeat this on his own. He needs a juicy pair of wings, and interestingly you can fly up and down as well, unlike in the rest of the game. With this new dimension of movement, you dodge some squares, knock stuff into him, and punch him in the eye, ending the battle with a giant cutscene of final hits. And of course, during that whole experience, there was constant banter between the two, adding to the immersiveness. What an amazing final boss, but somehow there's one that's even better. Level Doom was fantastic in every way, and an awesome finale to the game, but one thing it didn't do is send shivers down my spine. Before even starting the boss, you need to collect 4 keys instead of the usual 3 and go through an entire dungeon to get to the boss gate. Then when you finally enter, Shadow comments on the interesting looking seal, after which Mephiles jumps in, barely missing a shot. Then the ultimate game of Shadow Tag takes place, where you have to hit Mephiles with your Doom Morph and then Doom Blast him into one of these balls. For the second and third hits, he tries to send some of his minions, though they are easily defeated. Still full of confidence, Mephiles throws some pillars at you and clones himself. But this also fails, so he turns into an even uglier monster. You have to dodge its lasers while also hitting him a bunch of times, until his health bar is empty. This is when he finally realizes he's not winning this battle, and he breaks down. A character that's usually so full of himself, only ever caring about destroying the world, starts doubting his abilities and even cares about something else, just purely existing. We all want to exist, but actually not existing is a scary thought, and Mephiles has had to experience not existing for a long time. Though for someone whose only goal is to destroy everything, it's probably better if they don't exist at all.
There is no future ever.
So those were my opinions on all the bosses. Overall, these games have some great fights, besides the Time Eater, that one sucks, and some standout bosses in terms of spectacle. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and while you're down there, you might as well leave a like. If you do, I'll be able to sleep without any worries. Thanks.